Hey everybody, I'm Matt Palelli. I'm the Director of Marketing for Mundelein Seminary. And today we are joined by not one, but two Mundelein alumni priests, Father Bernie Etienne, class of 1993, and Father Zach Etienne, class of 2004. Guys, how you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Doing fine.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. So obviously, you guys are brothers and also priests. So could you just kind of tell us, where are you serving right now, and where has the priestly ministry brought you throughout your career? Father Bernie, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm pastor at Holy Rosary Parish in Evansville, Indiana. I've been here. I'm just wrapping up my 15th year, and the past 10 years I've served as Vicar General for the Diocese of Evansville as well. And I will be stepping out of that role at the end of June this year to just serve as a full-time pastor, which I'm really looking forward to. Prior to coming to Evansville, I was in Gibson County, two parishes, St. Joseph and Blessed Sacrament, one in Oakland City and one in Princeton. And when I was there, I was also vocation director for our diocese. And I had a couple of years in Jasper, Indiana, as an associate when I was first ordained. So that's what I've been involved in a nutshell.
Awesome. Father Zach, how about you?
And I'm Father Zach Etienne. I'm up the street from Bernie in Evansville, Indiana at Good Shepherd Catholic Parish for the past 11 years. Ordained in 2004 and served 1 year at St. Joe, Jasper, and then went to Ireland, Indiana, right outside of it, for about 4.5 years at St. Mary's Parish, and then came to Evansville. And 2013 became part of the chaplain team of the Evansville Police Department and have been serving the past 4 years as Memorial High School's chaplain, but starting this summer, I'm going to step down and allow all the local pastors, we're going to share the responsibility as a team of chaplains for Memorial High School.
Awesome. Sounds good. So we'll talk more about your vocations in a minute, but you actually have kind of a legacy of vocations in your family. Can Father Bernie, can you tell us about your siblings and what their vocations are?
Well, we have 6 children in our family. I'm the oldest, and going down in order, as you know, I'm a priest for the Diocese of Evansville. Next, my brother Paul, who is the Archbishop of Seattle. And then my brother Rick, who's married. He and his wife live here in the Evansville area. Then my sister Nicolette, who is a Benedictine nun with the Beach Grove Benedictines in Indianapolis. And then Zach, who is a priest for our diocese here in Evansville. And then our youngest sister Angie is here in Evansville as well, she and her family.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. So what do you think was the secret sauce in your family that your parents used to inspire so many vocations?
Well, I tell you, I had this question asked of me at a gathering of seniors a few years ago, and they said, what was it that your parents did that inspired so many vocations? I said, well, really, we just kind of watched our folks growing up and said, man, I don't want to live like that all my life. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
A big part of it was we grew up near St. Meinrad Arch Abbey.
Yeah.
So a lot of times seminarians would come to Tell City for their pastoral assignments, and then afterwards would come up to the house and hang out. Mom's brother was a priest with Archdiocese of Indy, and her sister's a Benedictine nun. And so we always saw the human side of priesthood and the religious life. It would be nothing to have a Sunday party at our house and a priest show up and say mass in the backyard. We thought all Catholics did that and found out, no, we were just weird.
I think Zach probably hits on it. We were in a good environment to discern a religious life. As he said, we grew up with it. We had aunt and uncle that were in religious life. That was kind of natural. And I would say, too, we were pretty steeped in the culture of the Catholic Church growing up. St. Paul's Parish in Tell City was really the heart of our family life. I mean, we went to school there. We worshiped there. Our friends and social life centered around the life of the church. And so it was really easy for us to certainly be committed to the faith. And we were all late vocations also, I'll say that. I mean, it wasn't that we had priesthood and religious life forced on us. Our parents would have been equally supportive if we chose a different career path and a different vocation to be married or single witness. I will say they were supportive of whatever we wanted to pursue, but we had such a good foundation. I think it gave us a freedom to discern this call, and it made itself present to us.
That's awesome. So what was family life like growing up? Was there a lot of sibling rivalry? Do you guys still have some sibling rivalry going on?
We had a friend visiting, a retired bishop, a friend of our family, was at the house one day, and he said, "You guys are brutal with each other." And we are. We're pretty honest, but yet we love each other. And but I'm the oldest, and you know, I've always been pretty independent and gone my own path. So I do feel there's a lot of love and support in our family. My family is by far the strongest support network I have. By far, it's all part of that. It comes at a price sometimes, you know, because we are tough on each other. Wouldn't you say, Zach? We call each other out.
And I'd say growing up with 6 kids in the family, a lot of times me being the 5th of 6 and 6 years younger than Bernie, and Angie's 5 years younger than me, I think for us, we always grew up not knowing necessarily that we were individuals. It was always you're Bernie's little brother or Paul Etienne's son, or always like that name. Even at IU, my first week at IU, huge campus, I was so excited. Went to get my mail, and the ladies at the desk go, "Oh my gosh, it's Bernie Etienne's little brother." And I thought, I'm at Indiana University in Bloomington, and they're even comparing me. But I think what helped me is going to a camp in the Poconos for 3 summers during my college years. I finally found out I could be accepted for me, and then it didn't matter that I was an Etienne. It was kind of, you know, okay, that's a blessing too. But it was always kind of living that way. We were the Etiennes. You know, you'd answer the phone, Etienne's residence, Zachary speaking. You know, we were always part of that family name, and always wanted to make sure we didn't end up in the paper for the wrong reasons and upset Grandma Myrtle.
Do you guys get together, your whole family and all your siblings? How do you support each other in these diverse religious vocations?
I think probably the immediate thing is we've got this family text string that never stops. We look for opportunities to get together. Before the COVID, it was a lot easier, but we were pretty well on our own for the last 14 months or so. But I think probably this is true of Zach as well. The older I get, the more important the family is, and more intentional I am about making regular contact with everybody. And they know our best and our worst. So,
how did each of you hear the call of the Holy Spirit? Did it go in birth order, or?
I think we all had our own journey. I mean, each of us had our own journey, and I mean, honestly, I probably felt that call from the time I was about 5 years old. But I spent, after 5th grade, I spent a lot of time running from it and trying to go a different path. And, time I reached 30, I just got tired of fighting it and kind of gave into it. I just want to say, I think it's funny when Zach started to discern Paul, our brother Paul, was the vocation director for the Indianapolis Archdiocese, which was our home diocese. I was the vocation director for the Diocese of Evansville. And I won out in recruiting Zach to the Diocese of Evansville.
Even though I had promised Bishop O'Meara on his deathbed at a hospital in Indy that I would never go to another diocese like my brother Bernie did. I would send for them if I ever considered it, because I thought I was going to be married with kids.
The nice thing too is it wasn't long after I won that battle that Paul got removed as vocation director. Yep.
And they made him a bishop.
Poor devil.
How about you, Father Zach?
I was going to say, working at a camp in the Poconos in my IU days as an RA, but working at the Catholic Center with religious ed. And I always thought I'd be Zach the dad. And I worked for Kids R Us for 8.5 years. So I traveled a lot. That kept me single because every year Kids R Us moving me from New Jersey to Chicago to Evansville to Indy to Fort Wayne, back to Evansville. So starting new friendships and then getting moved again kind of kept me single. And then I worked for Meinrad in development for 3.5 years, raising money for the monks and the School of Theology. So it was actually, you could blame one of the benefactors from there because they kept pushing me to go on a come and see weekend. And I said, Dan, my boss, I have no desire to go on that. Bernie's the vocation director. I go, but if that'll get Meinrad more money and it'll make this benefactor leave me alone, I'll go on the weekend. That was probably in May. And by August, I was sitting in a room at Mundelein looking at the ceiling saying, what did I just do to myself? I had to sell the house I had built a few years before. But that's a funny thing, too, because Bernie was vocation director and some guy going down the hallway said, there's a vocation director installing carpet down the hall in one of the rooms. I go, that's my brother. We had been to Menards and he was putting in my carpet.
That's hilarious. So was there any, seeing your brothers pursuing religious vocations, did that have any influence on you? Or you mentioned that you were just kind of on your own path, but what was the role of that in your own discernment?
Our brother Paul actually was the one that got a chance to do the college route for seminary. He was a late vocation, and then after a couple of years at a Catholic college, he transferred to University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, as a seminarian there at St. John Vianney. And so Paul was in seminary while Zach and I were out in the working world. Paul and I entered major seminary the same time. I mean, the day I left for Chicago to enter pre-theology, we went to see both of our grandparents, and I drove to Chicago, and he caught a flight to Rome for first theology. Oh, wow. He had laid out a number of years after college seminary because he just wasn't sure that was the path he was going to go down, and he worked for a while with the USCCB, and I don't know that really influenced my decision to go in. I personally was pretty independent, but it was nice to share that journey together. When Paul and I have always been good buddies, and it was nice to be making that journey together. I guess there was a certain support that's kind of hard to match whenever you got a brother that's going in at the same time you are, and even though you're in different places. So yeah, it was helpful in that way. Yeah,
absolutely. Father Zach, any thoughts on that?
And Paul didn't surprise us when Bernie announced it right after Paul, because they announced to the family about the same time. Bernie's did surprise me because we all thought growing up Rick was going to be the priest, and Rick's the one who got married. And then when Bernie snuck to Mundelein to do his initial entry questions and stuff, I was being transferred to Evansville. So he and the priest that came up actually drove my Ryder truck back to Evansville and helped me move, but still didn't tell me that's why they were up in Chicago.
I didn't tell anybody until about a month before I left for seminary, because I had been engaged at one point and had an engagement party. And when we didn't go on to be married, it was a little embarrassing, I guess. And I didn't want anybody to know I was doing this until I was actually doing it. That way, if I decided to change my mind, I didn't have to be embarrassed again.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that your parents didn't really put any pressure on you, but I know your mom has a story of an experience she had, I think, before she had children at Our Lady of Lourdes at the shrine there. Could one of you share that story?
I did not know anything about that story till long after I'd been ordained. And Zach, did Mom share that with you? I know Nicolette was aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, she had gone with her brother, Father Bernie Vogus, when Mom graduated from high school. He took her and a friend to travel Europe. And one of the stops on the trip was to stop at Lourdes in France. And she was told on the trip before she went that she had to make sure she prayed for her vocation. And so when she got there, she said, Mary, you can have any of my kids, but you can't have me.
We're paying for the sins of our mother.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
What advice do you have from your experience for parents who want to encourage vocations in their children, or at least make sure they know it's an option?
Sometimes some of the biggest obstacles I had in recruiting candidates were their parents. The parents fought their children. That mom would say, but I just want them to be happy, as if priests aren't happy. In fact, it's interesting. I just saw the results. Stephen Rossetti did a survey of our priests. And even in the pandemic and the crazy year we've had, like 95% of those guys responded way up there that they're happy that they chose to be a priest. For parents, I would want to say, you don't want to get in a position where you're standing between your child, your son, and God's will. If God is calling your son to be a priest, you want to be supportive of that. And so just to encourage them to have open hearts, to give their son the freedom to discern that without concern about disappointing their parents or making their parents upset. I think that would be a starting point for me.
Well, and maintaining good, intimate relationships with other people to help support you, through your discernment, through once you become, if you do get ordained, to have those good support groups. Archabbot Lambert from St. Meinrad, I had worked under him when I was there, and I almost left the seminary after my first theology year. My buddy Ned had left the seminary, and I went through a huge depression at that point because they always said, picture your priesthood, who are you going to spend your vacations with, and who's going to be your support network. And he called me, I think, 2 or 3 times and was encouraging. And he even said, Zach, you know what, if you drop out, that's fine. I'll give you a job, even if it's collecting cans around the property at St. Meinrad. So don't let that be an obstacle for you to discern that properly. He goes, but if you're leaving because you're hurting, then you've got to stay there and discern that you're not meant to be a priest. You can't change your mind in a few years. And if you can't answer that question today, you need to stay there and stick it out and see what your true vocation is. And so he's been a support. And in fact, I just called him the other day on the Feast of St. Joseph, because I know that's a huge day for him. And we had a chance to catch up again on things, but just having that good network. I mean, I'm blessed because I have literal brothers in the priesthood, but it's good to have that other network of other people out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. To that point, what are some of your enduring memories of your time at Mundelein?
I know a lot of my peers were, seriously discerning while they were in seminary whether or not they wanted to be a priest. Even though I didn't understand all that meant, I went into this with pretty set on this is what I felt called to do and I wanted to do. And so that was, it was tough in one sense to be there, but I have to say, in those years that I was there in the late 80s and early 90s, the formation team, the priests that were there were just wonderful role models. They made you feel like a peer in one sense, and yet they certainly were on a whole nother plane. And I just really admired those men. I could go down, there's a long line of priests that had a tremendous influence. I had a group of guys that I was in a formation group with my first year of theology. And we actually formed a support group and stayed in the same group all 4 years then of theology. And that became a very important part of the process for me. I think those were probably some of the more memorable, more important pieces of the puzzle for me.
How about you, Father Zach? You were there
And
a
I've
little
got a
bit
lot of
after
great
that.
memories. This morning at Mass, I talked about our third theology pilgrimage because it was about the Acts of St. Paul and him up at Athens, Greece. And I had pictures of me doing cartwheels, and I kind of threw that on Facebook today of those memories because the guys would have me doing cartwheels all over the pilgrimage of St. Paul in different places. We get together on a few cruises, some of the classmates. We've kept in touch during the pandemic, supporting each other with some Zoom calls occasionally to check in with each other. It was my first year there in pre-theology. I got elected to be on Father Canary's group of peer ministers, and that got me really tied into the community, even that first year there at Mundelein. So a lot of good memories. One of them I started laughing about too, remembering when my vocation director, Father Bernie Etienne, came to campus, and we all had to been tested for TB. And so the day I was supposed to have it checked by the nurse, he went in and she goes, I can't even see where I put the mark on. And then I walked in and go, really? You thought he was me? So I've got a lot of fun memories, good memories. She wasn't too happy with that either.
That's awesome. Well, I know on one of my first weeks at the seminary, I went up to the top of the bell tower and I saw where people had signed their name in the bell tower. And I know I saw Etienne up there. So one of you guys signed it.
I was known for playing. One day I go, you guys, I'm going to be in the tower today. Listen very closely. And then in the middle of the hymn, I switched to Mary Had a Little Lamb.
One of my classmates had a key to the bell tower, and we'd slip up there late at night once in a while and smoke a cigar.
I love watching the planes come into O'Hare because that's one of the best spots to see it.
Oh, yeah.
At nighttime. Or just even this time of year, I would always be known to either be sitting on the balcony studying in the sun, or I had my favorite spot on the other side of the lake where the wind would be black and I could sit there and study in the sunshine or take a nap. So, I mean, there's a lot of beautiful memories of even just the campus and walking around with classmates or even by yourself sometimes.
Yeah. Do you guys make it out to campus at all recently?
2 years ago, I was representing my class and went.
Yeah, it's been a few years. I used to be back quite a bit. I was the vocation director for 14 years, and we had guys up there, so I would make it up a couple times a year then. But I was there with my classmates for our 25th ordination reunion, and Monsignor Canary did a really nice retreat with all of us, and a large number of the guys came back. It was a great experience.
You talked about satisfaction in your vocation, and priests even in the pandemic still being happy with their lives. What have been some of the fruits of your priesthood for you guys?
It's not what you thought it would be. There are surprises along the way. I think the best way for me to answer what the fruits would be is there's just there's a certain peace and sense of fulfillment that this hadn't always been easy, but this is where I'm called to be. And I've never felt that with God's grace, we couldn't handle the situation we were in. I felt Mundelein prepared me very well, I think, for pastoral ministry. I'm really grateful for the tools that I was given, the education, the background, and so. But it's been challenging. It's nice. If you like a nice challenge, priesthood's a good life, and it's for me. I've always felt called to this, and there's a certain peace at the end of the day that it wasn't easy today, but this is what I'm called to, and I feel like I did what I was asked to do today.
I say also the intimacy of a relationship where, Zach walking in the past too, people would never share the things that Zach, the priest, walking in and just being invited into their family lives, into like what's going on, whether it's a happy moment or a sad moment. just even that piece of it's been a huge blessing at times. I mean, like you said, it can be bad at times, but it's just, so many people go through life and just let life happen to them, and they don't dive into relationships and into that intimacy of the connection and letting them know, God did create us, but, there's so much more there, and get to the heart of who they are, which the priesthood does allow you to, and not just let life happen.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. As we wrap up here, how can our listeners and our viewers pray for you guys as you continue your priestly ministry?
Well, I just to continue to pray for us. I mentioned in the homily this morning that we're all on the journey of faith. And we can only share as a priest what we've uncovered in our own journey with our people. So we're not the complete package. I mean, when I take my last breath, I probably will realize I've only uncovered about this much of the mystery of who Christ is and what the faith is to us. And so to pray that we can continue to grow and be able to help them respond to the circumstances of their life and our world and grow in their own relationship with the Lord. I think that would be the first thing I'd ask, is that just to pray that we could have that grace to continue to grow as well.
Yeah, amen.
Yep.
You second that?
Sure. He's my big brother. I have to.
It is weird. We share parish boundary. I mean, our parishes join each other. And, it's awkward stealing his wealthy parishioners.
Minimal.
Yeah, I haven't had many opportunities.
I just was asked to come over and bless his softball field.
It's not fair. It was a lot easier whenever there were different pastors up there.
So you guys can't tell me there's no sibling rivalry here. I'm seeing it.
No. That's not sibling rivalry. Maybe it is. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you both for sharing your stories and for the gift of your vocation to the church. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll definitely keep you in our prayers.
Thanks, Matt. Good talking.
God bless you guys.